This video is going to be over section 3.7, Equations of Lines in the Coordinate Plane. Now, your joke for the day. Why don't you do arithmetic in the jungle? The answer? Because if you added 4 plus 4, you would get 8, as in ATE. Okay, so let's start with a little bit of warm-up. What is a slope formula? Well, we describe slope as rise over run. So if you have 2 points, x1, y1, and x2, y2, you would find the rise by taking the difference in y's, or finding the difference of the y's. y2 minus y1. To find the run, you have to calculate the difference in the x's. x2 minus x1. And of course, m is used to designate slope. So let's go ahead and practice this formula. We have 2 points, 2, -1, and 7, 2. If you would like, you can label your points x1, y1, x2, y2. So if I'm going to calculate the slope between the points A, B, I'm going to do y2 minus y1. So 2 minus -1. And I'm going to do x's in the same order. 7 minus 2. Alright, so the numerator, 2 minus -1. Well, hopefully you remember that when you subtract a negative, it turns into positive. So I get 2 plus 1, which is 3. In the denominator, 7 minus 2, well, that is 5. So the slope between points A and B is 3 over 5. Up 3 over 5. Okay, so there are 4 real ways to describe slope. One way, slope could be positive. If you have a positive slope, that means that your line is going to be increasing from left to right. For instance, that line, it's going up from left to right. Slope could also be negative. If you have a negative slope, it means that your line is decreasing from left to right, so it's going down. Slope could be 0. And if you have a slope that's 0, it means that you either have a vertical or horizontal line. In this case, all horizontal lines have a slope of 0. And then your last option for slope is it could be undefined. You may not be able to calculate it. And that's going to happen anytime you're dividing by 0. Okay, so think about a line in which the run is 0. You're not running at all. You're not going left or right. That would be the case with all vertical lines. Okay, next we're going to talk about 2 main forms that we use to graph lines. The first form is called the slope-intercept form. That looks like y equals mx plus b. So in this case, m is the slope. Now the slope is always going to be the coefficient of x. And the y-intercept is denoted by the letter b. The y-intercept is where the graph crosses the y-axis. As a point, it's going to look like 0, comma, and then whatever b is. Okay, another common form is called point-slope form. Y minus y1 equals m times the quantity x minus x1. So in order to use this form, you need a point and the slope. And any point on the line will work. Whatever the coordinates of your point are, that's where you're going to put them in x1 and y1. And then you also need a slope. Okay. Okay, now let's go ahead and practice both of those forms. So number one, we're going to start with y equals 2x plus 3. And we need to identify the slope and one point on the line. Well, notice that this equation is in slope-intercept form. I'm just going to put that in parentheses. So 2 is a coefficient of x, which means 2 is my slope. And you can either write that as 2 or 2 over 1, because slope is really a rate. I go up 2 and I run 1. Then the 3 is my b value. It's my y-intercept. So you need to be able to write that as a point. 0, 3. Okay, let's try number 2. Y minus 1 equals negative 2 times the quantity x plus 2. All right, this form does not look anything like the problem from number 1, so it is in point-slope form. Now the slope is easy to pick out. It is just the coefficient of the quantity. So in this case, my slope is negative 2. So to pick out the point now is going to be a little bit more difficult. We know that the x-coordinate has something to do with 2 because it's in the spot for y1. And the y-coordinate is going to have something to do with the 1 because it's in the spot for y1. Well, in our general form, it's y minus y1. So what kind of number can I plug into y1 in order to still be y minus that value? It must be a positive 1. Now for the x, what number can you plug in here to change this negative sign to an addition sign? Well, that only happens when you subtract a negative number. So if the x-coordinate was negative 2, then I would have had x plus 2 in my formula. So the point that's on this line is going to be negative 2, comma 1. For right now, let's skip practice problem number 3 and let's move on to practice problem number 4, which is y plus 7 equals 4 times the quantity x minus 9. Okay, again, you have to start by recognizing the form. And this is in point-slope form. So let's start by picking out our slope. The slope is always that value that is multiplied by the quantity, or that is multiplying through the quantity. In this case, slope is 4. Now we have 9 or negative 9 for our x-coordinate, and then 7 or negative 7 for the y-coordinate. Your general form is y minus y1, x minus x1, so your point then is actually a positive 9. And it's always the opposite of what's inside there. Positive 9 and a negative 7. Because if I took the negative 7 and plugged it into y1, you would end up with y minus negative 7, which is how they got plus 7 right up there. What I want you to do is finish number 6. So we're going to skip 3 and 5, and 6 is what needs to be done when you come to class tomorrow. Also, the rest of these notes will be finished in another video.